Welcome to another episode of the Muffed Punt podcast. My name is Brandon, and I am joined today by Ralph and by Terry. And I'm definitely super excited to bring you another episode. Another week of football has passed us by. Another week of football is in front of us, and we're definitely super happy to go through the picks. One of us went 13-3 this week. I don't think it was me, but I think he's a little happy to get into the picks this week and see what he can do for himself this week. Good job, Terry. So you guys ready for some football talk?
Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
One of the things I'm happy about is last week we were able to go 4 for 4 for our sports chats. We were able to get in a little Phillies talk, a little Eagles talk, a little Sixers chat, and even some Flyers action. This week, I don't think we're going to hit the whole 4 for 4, but we're definitely going to hit a little baseball and football, as well as our predictions for this week. So let's get ourselves started. Terry was on point. Last week, the Birds got the win. One of the articles I saw this week that I thought really described things well is, Hurts is always so calm, an NFC executive said. I expected this kind of performance because he comes from being on the big stage. He played well, one NFC scout said. He showed poise and made some timely throws, protected the ball, and used his legs to keep the defense off balance. It was a very promising first start for him. Hurts, the former Alabama and Oklahoma star, who was famously benched at halftime at the college football playoff national championship for Tua, received a positive first start review from the NFL evaluator from the Bleacher Report. He ran for 106 yards and revived a long dormant ground game with running back Miles Sanders, who also had 115 yards and 2 touchdowns, including one 82-yarder. Philadelphia totaled 246 rushing yards against a defense that hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 55 straight games. They used him as I thought they would, and New Orleans couldn't adjust, hence the 200 yards rushing. And another NFC scout whose team has played the Eagles this season, Jalen, right now, is a better athlete than a quarterback. His ability to extend the play is what made him dangerous in college, and it's translated to the NFL. Well, guys, we've had the first start for Jalen Hurts in the books. I'm curious, before I really get into my thoughts about it, what you guys thought. I believe last week we started with Terry, so we're going to hit up with Ralph.
Well, I mean, I think I said it last week, which is really, no matter what they do, they've got a problem on their hands, If he played well, then you're going to have a quarterback controversy. And if he didn't play well, then everybody's going to be further second-guessing the team from a drafting standpoint and how and who they draft and hits and misses along those lines. So, they have a big problem. It was nice to see a competitive game. It was nice to watch the game. I mean, I actually had interest in this game, unlike previous weeks, as we've said. You can say that you can question my fandom if you want, but the only thing that I don't question is the fact that my walls are all intact and don't have holes in them, because I knew that by watching them, I was just going to frustrate myself. So watching them this past week was actually a welcome thing. I looked forward to it. I looked forward to seeing how Hurts was going to play. And, he played well, but how can a team really, you can watch all the college tape you want, but he's in a different system. It's a different, set of players. It's professional league. It's not college. So, teams can game plan all they want for him, but how much of that really comes into play, I don't know. I haven't played the game, I admit, so I'm not really sure how much of that really becomes comes into play. But I liked what I saw. I saw a mobile quarterback. I saw a guy that, when asked to, could throw the ball down the field. We talked about this prior, which was, is he going to be a one read and go kind of guy? And we did see a little bit of that during the game. But I think he gives this team a different level of excitement. Obviously, they played a little bit. I think everybody played played up to a much more competitive level than in previous weeks. It just, the whole game felt different. Do you guys notice that? Did you feel that? Because as I'm watching the game, I just felt like the game was really never out of hand, even though, like, New Orleans came back and made a little bit of a game out of it in the second half. I just never felt like it was really out of reach. Terry, did you feel any way about that?
Well, I'll say I did start to get a little nervous when it went 17-14, like toward the end of the third quarter. I was like thinking this could go bad quick, but yeah, I have to say, I mean, I made the pick of the Eagles last week. It was just kind of to throw it out there because the NFL's been crazy this year, so I thought, hey, Hurts is gonna get this win, and surprisingly he did. I mean, it's a pleasant surprise, but I still think it's definitely a to be determined situation with him. I mean, I really liked a lot that I saw from him. I agree with you, Ralph, about the fact that he was very calm. The moment wasn't too big for him. You could see he was, cool, calm, and collected. He was, fine as far as, his when he did have to drop back and pass. He had pretty good decisiveness. He moved out of the pocket, eluded the rush. One big stat for the game: no sacks. He took no sacks in the game, as bad as the Eagles' offensive line is. So he made some, good maneuvers out of the pocket, got away from the rush, made some plays. And then when there wasn't things there, he threw the ball away. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air for me. I mean, considering you see in previous weeks, you've been seeing Carson back there and he just, holds the ball until he's like, well, just sack me. That's all that I can really do. So it was nice to see that, but I mean, it's people are going crazy in Philly sports radio. Oh, this guy, got to get rid of Wentz. Let's pump the brakes here for a minute. Like let's give him. He's obviously going to start the rest of the season. It seems, barring some kind of injury. We need to see some more on this, and we'll figure out what's going to happen. Obviously from his. The passing portion of the game, he was 17 for 30. That's not great. But, I mean, a lot of those balls were throwaways. So, I mean, he did the right thing in those situations. Yeah, he definitely looked good. And I think you're right. I do think the Eagles could have an issue on their hands. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how things played out. Brandon, what do you think about the fact that we had finally Doug Peterson put a game plan together where he, seemed to put a legitimate run game on the field and kept with it, where in weeks past, and what have we been calling for? And it finally worked out.
That was definitely one of the things that I was thinking about a lot, especially when I was watching Doug get interviewed after the game. And one of the things that they were talking about when he finally had come around to announce Jalen as the starter for next week was like, one, enjoying his time at home and getting to finally relax a little bit. And then two, like, I guess he was like saying that Carson kind of gives Carson the independence or the ability to kind of like make play call changes. And he was saying how he didn't really allow for Jalen to do that. And it was kind of nice. And I was wondering, like, was that your way of throwing Carson under the bus? Like, I don't even think he saw that bus coming. I don't know. It was really kind of odd for me. Like, I've been hearing a lot of rumblings over the last week or so of people saying that, like, Dougie P's been throwing Carson under the bus because he's basically trying to save his job at this point. But I really did feel like I feel like in one respect, this is what I've wanted all along. But I feel like if you swap the quarterbacks and you ran the exact same plays, Carson would have taken at least 3 or 4 sacks, probably thrown an interception or 2, and that pains me to say.
I mean, I'd agree with you. I mean, you could see Hurts was definitely more functionally elusive back there when the rush was on. He either realized I gotta run, I gotta get out of here and go, or break out of the pocket, roll out, one way or the other and try and make the throw downfield or just throw it away. As far as like Doug is concerned, I mean, you can tell like he's walking on eggshells with this whole situation. I mean, I don't know if it's because he's afraid of hurting Carson Wentz's feelings, because he went out of his way to really not give Hurts any kind of praise after the game. And, clearly this is a guy in his first start ever against the best defense in the league, one of the hottest teams in the league, whether they have Drew Brees or not. I mean, you just went out there after all these awful games the Eagles have put together, and wins the game. Now, I'm not going to say it was all on him because Miles Sanders had a great game and the defense played really well.
And we got a new receiver. Did you guys notice that guy? The Alshon Jeffrey fella?
I see big things in his future.
I think you're right.
Yeah, he pops up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
that guy.
His bank account is getting larger by the day. Sorry, go ahead.
That guy's got some positive things going for him. I mean, he's tall. I bet you he'd be a good red zone threat or something like that. I could really see him going up for jump balls maybe in big spots, maybe even in a big game or two. Would really like to see that out of that guy. He's got a promising future.
I mean, but let's be honest. This, I know it's nice to have him back, but Jeffrey ain't going anywhere. We need Fulgham on the field, in my opinion, because we know we're getting in Jeffrey. I mean,
he's in witness protection. He hasn't come back yet.
Well, I mean, since Jeffrey showed up, I mean, obviously Doug's very loyal to Alshon, and in some ways, rightly so. I mean, he was very crucial to the win in the Super Bowl. But at this point, that's several years ago. And you have a guy that was like leading the league in receiving for 5 weeks. And now he's barely on the field. I mean, you're starting to see Rager make some plays. Let's see what we have here. Jeffrey is not going to be on this team next year. Let's be honest. His contract, he's going to be one of the guys that's going to be gone. I'm pretty sure. So let's see what we've got in these young guys. You're playing Hurts right now. I mean, come on. Let's see what we have. Let's see what kind of roster we have right now instead of going old hat with Alshon Jeffrey, throwing him a 50-50 ball 10 yards down the field.
But if you look at the receptions of all of the receivers, Jalen Reagor had 2, Dallas Goedert had 4, Miles Sanders had 4, Greg Ward had 2, Alshon had the 1 touchdown. I think they're just trying to find any kind of form of consistency. And so you basically have the ability now to, you have 3 targets. You have Reagor, Goddard, and Sanders. And you can kind of go to them with some kind of frequency at this point. So it's like just trying to get yourself some kind of rhythm. And I think with Jeffrey, you're trying to find his spot in that rhythm. I just don't know where that is on this team anymore. I just don't think that he is the answer. If it was me and I was the GM of this team, I'd find a way to get out of that. I either would not play him or find some way to get out of the Deshaun and Jeffrey deal, because those are 2 of the worst contracts you have on this thing right now that you're dealing with, as well as the Malik Jackson contract. I mean, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, but it all boils down to they have some scary stuff in their future. So they're going to have to eat some money, to my understanding, even if they get rid of Wentz. So it's going to have to be an interesting situation coming up here for them. But I don't really know if you're looking at this offense, speaking of the future, you're just going with whatever kind of consistency that you can find, don't you think?
You've got to go with whatever works at this point, right? You're 4-8-1. It's time to figure out what's, start putting Band-Aids on some of this stuff and try to fix some of these things. And you're just looking for anything that works at this point. Just going back to Hurts real quick. Again, I liked what I saw, but here's a stat that kind of scares me, guys, is Miles Sanders, 14 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had that long run. So if you take that out of there, that's 13 carries, probably roughly, 70, 80 yards and a touchdown. Here's Jalen Hurts' line. 18 carries, 106 yards, 5.9 average. 18 carries. When your quarterback rushes the ball more than your stud running back, that's not a recipe for success. I just don't believe it.
I think that like everyone who's having all of this love for Jalen Hurts right now, give the NFL defenses another week or two, and that's not going to be a problem for them anymore. Now, You saw it last week with the RPO game and them running the zone run, and a lot of times with them just being able to open up the right spot. And that's what it was, is with that, the Miles Sanders breakout, the defensive backs all chased Jalen. And that gave a huge hole for Miles to break through, which if that hadn't happened, if they weren't actively worried that Jalen was going to take off with that ball, that hole would not have been there. I totally get it's a different offense. It's a little bit, it's the same, but it's different because now it has that threat back there, which I think does allow Doug to kind of open up his whole playbook to an extent of what he really wants to do with this offense. I think this is kind of the style of offense he always looks to run. It's what Nick Foles did. I mean, he was the king of the RPO. So I don't know if going into this is really going to give us great things in the future. It is great to have actual relevant, more fun to watch football for the moment. But Ralph and I both said it last week. I don't think that Jalen Hurts winning this game does good things for the Eagles in the future. I think it just further complicates the situation. But I guess I'll take it.
And the fans that are out there that say that we've got the next quarterback in Jalen Hurts after one game are the same fans that say that we don't have enough, or that Carson isn't the guy. How do you really say one way or the other that Carson's done versus Jalen Hurts is the answer? For my money, you really need to take the time and give. I just don't think this is the last hurrah for Carson Wentz in Philly, and if it is, then I feel like the organization as a whole has failed him, especially when you look back at 2017. And I hate to be revisionist, and I hate to go back to this season all the time. Obviously, it's our one and only Super Bowl, and a lot of naysayers out there are gonna, be quick to bring that up to us. But you look at 2017 and you look at what he was doing. That just doesn't. You just can't do that without talent, and he's got the talent. It's just, can he get past his own head? Can he get past, a want or a lack of want to change any mechanics or get coached up or, make any kind of changes in his game that, coaches are going to try to implement with him. We've all heard that he's maybe kind of stubborn in that regard. I just don't think he's done. And honestly, if he goes somewhere else, he'd be the same. I rooted for Andy Reid when he left. I think he kind of fit that same bill. I mean, the what could have been factor there for me is going to outweigh any hatred for the guy. I don't hate the guy at all. I wish he could succeed here. I really do. I really like Wentz. I've always been a fan of him. I thought he was, I thought coming out of that draft, he was the better pick than Goff at the time. For my opinion on this, I just really want Wentz to work out some way, some shape, some form. And if it's with somebody else, then I wish him all the best.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks with tumultuous relationships with their teams, we're going to play a quick little game. You guys ready?
Sure.
I'm going to name off some games here, some stats from some games, and you're going to tell me if you think you might be interested in this quarterback, and then I'll tell you who it is. So we got one game here with 297 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 135. Then we have another game, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 116. Another game, 334 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 147 yards. Last one, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 87% passer rating. Sounds pretty decent, right? Any guess as to who this quarterback is?
This is just one guy?
This is one person's season this year. I'm just highlighting a couple games.
I mean, I could take a guess that I think I know who you're going after on this one, but if I didn't know this already, I would probably say that you're talking about one of the more talked about, more accredited quarterbacks anyway in the league. But I believe you're talking about Baker.
I was going to say he may or may not have a very love-hate relationship with Colin Cowherd. I mean, if I could have rattled off that list of stats to you, and I could have listed off any other quarterback, and you could have gotten to like 10 other guys before you got to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
the season that he's had this year for him has been an absolute great year. Now, there's still a couple games left in the season. Things could still end up mediocre. If this thing goes down in a nosedive before the playoffs, then all of this could be for naught. But if he's getting hot right now, which is what it looks like he is, then we might actually get, dare I say, a playoff victory in Cleveland. I don't know. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. But this guy is almost thrown for 350 yards in his last two games. And we're talking against Baltimore and against Tennessee. We're not talking about slouches on defense. I mean, These teams can play defense. And this dude is balling out. What do you guys think? Watch. We'll start with Terry. Tell me your thoughts.
Baker got caught up in the hype machine coming out of college. I mean, he was, stud at Oklahoma. I mean, the guy was making all kinds of plays and coming in to the Browns. I think there was a ton of pressure put on him. Obviously, the coaching staff that was in there at the time, they were a joke. They had no clue what they were doing. I think too much got put on him all at once. And I think the way that the Browns, I think the Stefanski hire has kind of, righted the ship, so to speak. They got the ground game is rolling. I mean, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt they're the best 1-2 punch in the league. I mean, they're both unbelievable. I mean, they both pretty much, I don't know the stats, but I would say they're both probably pretty close to 100 yards a game on the ground. This is perfect for what Baker needed. He needed some help as far as not having to have all the pressure on himself to have to win every game. And at this point, I mean, it looks like he's starting to hit his stride. He still has bad stretches. He still throws questionable balls every once in a while, picks, things like that. But for the most part, he's been pretty good this year. They're 9-4 right now. It's almost a given they're going to get to the playoffs. That's going to be when we really see who he is. Last night, I mean, he came up big in that game with bringing them back. Obviously they fell a little short, but it wasn't anything on him. I mean, he did everything he could to do it. Their defense pretty much, lost the game for them, but, he's playing at a stud level right now. And I think, a lot of people are starting to notice it. Yeah, I mean, it's good for him too, because it's kind of a little bit of a redemption, because I think he also, he was put in a situation that he was taking a lot of heat for all their problems, and it really wasn't all on him either. And they've done right. They got a good offensive line. They're protecting him, and outside weapons. Obviously, Odell's hurt for the season, but that might actually be a good thing, because now, spreading the ball around to a bunch of different guys, and it's seemingly working pretty well there. So I like where he's I like where he's at right now. I mean, this is when teams can get hot and they get on a hot streak, and you never know. Like you said, that could see a playoff win in Cleveland.
So you mentioned the 1-2 punch of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt there. And one of the things that I wanted to mention was in the last game versus the Ravens, Nick Chubb had 17 carries for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Kareem Hunt had 6 carries for 33. But Kareem Hunt had 6 receptions for 77 yards. So you have a guy that can get you the yards on the ground in the tough spots, and you have the guy that can get it over top. So if they go to essentially block the run, you have a guy you can throw it out to. So there's just so many options that you can go back and forth with this offense that I do like. And I think this is kind of what I was expecting with the Browns a year or two ago. And then, we got what we got. So, congrats to them for being able to actually get some kind of semblance of decent football there in Cleveland. I do think that's great. But I have one last question for you guys before we wrap up our coverage of this game, unless Ralph wanted to chime in with thought here.
No, I mean, the only thing I'll say is, just kind of like what I chimed in with earlier. Is, they're fun to watch. Finally, I mean, Browns games, for as long as I can remember, were, the last game you wanted to see on TV, especially if the Eagles weren't playing and you got stuck with, let's just say, a Browns versus Cardinals game in the early 90s or mid 90s was, the worst thing you could get on TV, basically. But for them to be relevant again and to have good football there finally after all these years, and I know that they've had winning teams there in the last 10, 15, 20 years or so, but obviously it's been few and far between. So again, Baker is balling really, he's balling good right now, and as you guys said, getting hot at the right time. It's just going to see if you can keep that going. I mean, a tough game last night against the Ravens, but man, was that a fun game to watch.
And we talked a lot about Baker. One of the things that I wanted to mention was about Lamar. I don't know if you caught towards the end of the game there. Do you guys think he ran off really because he had cramps, or do you think he had to hit deuces and that's the real reason why he ran off the field? Because I don't know about you, but when I watch that video, and you guys know I got some health stuff, so every once in a while I gotta book it to the bathroom. That's what that looked like to me. That looked like dude, man, was like, yo, get out of my way. I gotta hit the can. But he got it back out on the field on fourth down. Ended up driving down the field and scoring. So whatever he did back there, I don't know if he hit the can or what, but I don't know. Maybe he can work in a fourth quarter run to the bathroom in the playoffs, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think maybe he was taking the Browns to the Super Bowl.
Nice.
I like it. That was good.
Hey-o.
I saw he tweeted out. He tweeted out, "No, come on now. What are you talking about?" I think there might be some truth to it.
You saw him running.
Someone was banging on the stall like, "They're coming back. They're coming back. Get out on the field." He comes flying out, comes back to help them get down the field just in time. That was pretty funny. But I mean, he had a. I mean, he had a good game himself. I think the game could have gotten a little bit out of hand had he not went to the dressing room for whether it was cramps or, had to drop a deuce. But I mean, he was crushing them. Their defense had no answer for him. So I mean, he was running all over him, and he didn't have to pass for a lot of yards because they were just running it all over their defense. So that was probably the most entertaining Monday night game since that the Rams-Chiefs game, I think 2 years ago. I mean, it was just so high scoring back and forth and just fun to watch. But it was just a great game. And the Ravens are kind of getting a little bit on a roll too, so they could sneak into the playoffs themselves. I think they're getting a little bit of momentum right now, and Lamar's playing just better and better each week. That maybe they can sneak in and make some noise. Their defense is still a problem though.
Yeah, that was the wake-up game for their offense for sure. They went 6 for 11 on third down, and they did go 1 for 1 on fourth. But, man, I definitely thought that was it, man. When he came back, he waddled out to the dressing room. And that was what I thought was funny in the video. When you watch, there's a guy coming through the door right as he's trying to get in there, and he, almost throws the dude behind him. That, to me, with the urgency, that was what I was like, oh, no, that's a bathroom visit. I was like, I don't think you run in that quick to get an IV, but that might just be me. I don't know.
Yeah. I saw
you got to go. You got to go.
I know that run.
Yeah, right. I know that waddle. So I'm definitely excited to see what's coming up here in the coming weeks for the Ravens. I mean, hey, if you're going to get hot, now's the time to do it for sure. I didn't think there was much life left in that team after what I've seen over the last few weeks, but I'm happy they were able to get a win. I'm sorry for Baker because those commercials are going to get harder and harder to do in the offseason if you don't get some wins. So hopefully he can have some fun and get himself a playoff win this year, but I am highly doubtful it's going to go any further than just making the playoffs. Speaking of teams that we hope could actually make the playoffs for a change, what about those Phillies, guys? The Philadelphia Phillies have hired Dave Dombrowski. Am I saying that right? Dombrowski?
Dombrowski.
Dombrowski.
There we go. Bueller. As president of the baseball operations, whether rebuilding or reloading, small market or large, Dave has been a big success at every major league stop. His next challenging project, a Philadelphia Phillies team that's gone 9 years without a winning record. Dave joined the Phillies as the president of baseball operations on Friday. This is a great day for the Philadelphia Phillies, managing partner John Middleton said in a statement. David is one of the most accomplished executives this great game has ever seen, and we are thrilled to welcome him to Philadelphia. Andy MacPhail is the Phillies' current president and has planned to retire after the 2021 season. Please hold your applause. He said in October he would be willing to step aside sooner to make way for a new baseball operations boss. Philadelphia re-signed general manager Matt Clintock with the organization after finishing 28-32 last season. Joe Girardi remains as manager. Between David and Joe Girardi, we now have two of the best people in place to set us on the path back to where we want to be, and that is in the postseason and contending for world championships, Middleton said. Dave is 64 years old. He led baseball operations for 4 teams over more than 3 decades in the majors, taking a trio of franchises to the World Series. His clubs have won 4 pennants and 2 World Series titles. He was the youngest general manager in baseball history when he took over the Montreal Expos in 1988 at 31 years old, and he played a major role in putting the small market club on a path to contention with its fruitful farm system. He joined the expansion Florida Marlins in 1991, 2 years before their first game, and was the chief architect of their 1997 World Series championship. Then he oversaw an ownership-mandated fire sale, helping to ultimately rebuild a Marlins squad that won another title in 2003, although Dave had left for Detroit by then. He turned a Tigers team that lost an American League record 119 games in 2003 into a perennial winner. Detroit won 4 straight division titles from 2011 to 14 and AL pennants in 2006 and 2012 before cutting him loose after the 2015 season. He joined the Red Sox as president of baseball operations the following August and made a number of key acquisitions, including ace Chris Sale, slugger J.D. Martinez, and manager Alex Cora, that led to Boston's 2018 World Series championship. He was fired by the Red Sox in September of 2019 amid a disappointing follow-up to the championship run. Known for aggressively pursuing major league talent, Dave has also overseen the drafting and development of a number of stars, including Rondell White, Cliff Floyd, Josh Beckett, Justin Verlander, and Rick Porcello. I believe Porcello's a New Jersey guy, isn't he?
That I don't know.
Pretty sure. So anyway, a little bit of a long bit there, but I wanted to introduce you guys a little bit to our new president of baseball operations. What are your thoughts?
I think he's got his work cut out for him. Look, I like the resume. I like the championship resume. I like the record as far as drafting goes. What I don't like is that he tends to really mortgage the farm to get guys as well. He's a big trade guy. I haven't really had a chance to read this one article, but they were basically going over all of his, major trades throughout the years and, which trades worked and which ones didn't. For the Phillies, putting somebody in with that kind of resume is exactly what they need. But right now, what do the Phillies really have to mortgage? Their farm system is bottom third at best. They don't really have any major league talent that I think would be tradable. I mean, you got Scott Kingery. They signed him to a terrible deal 3 years ago. They thought they had something in that kid that just hasn't shown up. And they paid him a lot of money, coming off, I think he was still in a rookie deal at that point. So who else do you have? I mean, you've got Alec Boehm, but he started to show some things last year that you think might be, going to be used and useful for this season. So is he tradable? Is Rhys Hoskins tradable? Everybody but Harper tradable? I don't know what he's going to do, and I'm interested to see how he's going to attack it. But like I said, man, he's got a lot of work to do, and a short amount of time to do it, because these next 3 to 5 years, I think with Bryce Harper is your window to really nail it down and go play for a World Series. These are the years where I think Harper is going to be in his prime. I think we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but with the Mets signing the catcher from the White Sox, does that potentially lead to JT re-signing with us? I don't know. Ownership is going to dictate that and decide whether or not losing $150 or $180 million last year is worth signing JT to keep the fans' butts in the seats, if you will, and keep the fans coming back. Because without JT and without re-signing him, I have a hard time believing that this is a win now. And everything that I've read as far as hiring Dave Dombrowski has been, this is your indication that the Phillies are in a win now mode. So Brandon, I know you're a big Phillies fan. What do you get that same sense that this is win now?
No. That's like I said last week in the podcast when we started talking about the Phils, is I feel like they are just completely mismanaging the whole Harper window, as you just so put it. And I think that's the hardest part of all of this, is being someone that, being a lifelong Phillies fan, I didn't really want Harper here. I would have rather have tried to find a way that we could have built the system internally, but it's just so, like you said, barren at this point. I really don't know if we get rid of Braum, what are we going to do at that point as far as the left side of the infield? Because you don't have anybody over, because Didi's gone, more than likely at this point. JT, if he's gone, then you have, who's going to play third? Who's going to play short? Kingery? He can't play both. We got to think of the different ways that we can try to put this together for this team. I really don't know. I'm going to be interested to see, but right now I'm just on such shaky ground with my hopes for this team that I feel like it's just as likely to go to a bad place as it is a good place.
Yeah, you're just waiting for him to screw it up.
Yeah, basically, because I haven't seen anything over the last couple of years that have given me any kind of hopes. It's kind of like watching you guys know, since the Cubs won the World Series, I've been watching a lot of Cubs baseball, just because I love a lot of the guys' personalities that are on the team. And it's kind of like watching the Cubs a little bit over the last couple of years, is just you have all of these huge hopes, and you have a lot of these like known players on the team that are hopeful commodities, but for whatever reason, when the time is right, they just can't put it together. I know that's been kind of like the perennial thing with the Cubs, but I'm hoping that the Phils don't now fill that seat. I mean, think about that. 9 years since you've had successful baseball in the city of Philadelphia. That's crazy. Almost a decade of crappy baseball. That's terrible. What about you, Terry?
Yeah, I mean, so as far as the Dombrowski signing goes, I mean, I kind of agree. He's kind of like as far as like the way that he's done in the past. Yes, he brought the Detroit Tigers out of the dregs and got them to 2 World Series, but he's kind of a win now type of hiring, which is they're sending mixed messages, in my opinion, because like we said just a couple of weeks ago, we're talking about Real Muto might not be here because they don't want to spend the money. They're, the idea that Wheeler was going to get floated out there for trade bait. It's a little confusing. I mean, but let me just say this: this guy's a good pickup for sure. I kind of remember when the Phillies picked up, Pat Gillick. He's a guy that had after the Phillies won a World Series, he had 2 World Series with 2 different franchises. This guy already has it. So, I mean, I think it's definitely good to have a steady hand there. I mean, I know that he's been volatile with trades before, but I mean, in the situations that he has were where they had a lot of assets to trade. So it was kind of more okay to do, I guess. But in this case, he's got to build things from the ground up. And, I wouldn't trade that Alex Baum, the third baseman. He looked pretty good, like a pretty good player to me. And I don't know if I would want to move him because, he's at a corner position. Third basemen are hard to find anymore. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I like Didi. I thought he played well. There's a lot of good shortstops out there in free agency, though, so they do have options. But I think another thing is that they're going to have to sign JT at this point, because I think not only because, I mean, it's a tough one for me, because he's getting up there. He's getting to that age where you're going to have to sign to a big contract. It's going to be a lot of money, and you're going to just eventually, he's going to start to decline. Hopefully not right away. He's still definitely the best catcher, in baseball as far as fielding and hitting. But I think they're also going to have to kind of appease Harper, because they've got so much money invested in him that if he's not happy about things, I mean, he's gonna let people know about it. And I already saw him. He already put out a video about, like, they had to go get JT. Like, we need to have him on this team. They have so many areas of need, and their bullpen, my God, the worst bullpen of all time, I think. This guy's got his work cut out for him. I don't think this is going to be an overnight fix. Obviously, I think this is, you might have 5 years of, retooling, as you said. I think it's going to be more of a semi-rebuild. You're going to have to fix this, but we'll see what happens. I'm not getting my hopes up for the Phils. They need a lot of work.
I don't see how it can't be a rebuild when you basically have 2 pitchers on the team. Like, that to me doesn't say you're in any kind of win now mentality whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah. No. You have 2 frontline starters. I mean, Nola definitely took he declined last year. I mean, he didn't pitch as well as he had previously. He's kind of always been up and down a little bit. I mean, Wheeler looked really, really good coming off of, his, injury plagued year before, but yeah, no pitching, no playoffs. That's it.
The 3, 4, and 5 spot of that starting rotation has been abysmal for years.
Come on, Vince Velasquez is Cy Young worthy, right? No?
He's more like a Wild Thing in Major League. More likely to go to the penitentiary, I think, than go to the Hall of Fame.
You mean to tell me Vince Velasquez wasn't the answer? Nick Pivetta wasn't the answer?
Come on. Nick Pivetta had some times of being okay. Vince Velasquez, for the large part, has been largely unwatchable for I can't tell you how long.
Yeah.
Other than he threw fast.
The best thing he ever did was when he got put into left field and, had to make that throw to the plate.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, my God.
That was the most entertaining thing he's ever done. I mean, and I'm surprised he didn't throw it over Real Muto's head.
Yeah, I was reading an article from local sports coverage in Philadelphia, and they list the 3 worst contracts that Dave Dombrowski's given out as a GM, and here's the 3. David Price, he gave a 7 years, $217 million to. I guess that was when he was with the Red Sox. I don't even know who this is. This is how bad this is. Nate Eovaldi, Eovaldi. I don't remember ever hearing that name before. He gave 4 years, $68 million to. And here's the kicker, because you know how we love signing older veterans to max contracts, especially as Flyers fans. When he was with Detroit, he gave Miguel Cabrera, at the age of 32, an 8-year, $248 million contract.
Which I'm pretty positive he's still on, right?
He's got to be. Well, yeah, he's got to be, right?
He's got like 1 or 2 years left on that, I think.
Which would take him through age 40. I mean, I don't know. That's crazy talk there.
It's like he's just playing with monopoly money, with all the money these teams are throwing out there. But someone has to give him. I would hope would have to give him the green light to do that. And obviously we've seen with Middleton, he doesn't seem like he's ready to fork over the money. So this is going to be, to me, it's going to be interesting with him, because the only way they're getting out of this is to sign a bunch of free agents. They have no tradable guys.
Well, one of the things that might lead to them hopefully signing JT is the Mets acquisition last week of James McCann, according to the team president, Sandy Alderson, who noted that the organization also spoke with top agent catcher on the market, JT Realmuto. Alderson said the match with Realmuto wasn't right, or at least not right now. We can afford to wait to fill some holes, but we can't afford to wait to fill them all, team president Sandy Alderson said on Monday. This wasn't a compromise pick. Part of it was really our strong interest in James, but at the same time, we had conversations with JT. The short answer is we talked to both. The move doesn't take the Mets out of the running for other top free agents, such as outfielder George Springer, but Alderson didn't want to wait if he didn't have to. He's settling in for what he thinks will be a long offseason in baseball. When you have different parts of the market moving at different paces, you have to make some decisions. You have to make some choices, not only based on a player alternatives, but also timing. I don't know too much about what you guys think. Hopefully with the Mets signing James McCann, that will be hopefully an indication that they're not going to directly go after JT. There's still other teams in this division that I feel like would want to go after him. What are your guys' thoughts?
So I think that I think the Mets are, the Mets are coming. They're coming. This new owner is ready to spend money. He's got the money. He's not worried about losing $150 or $180 million in a year. He's coming. He wants to win a championship. I think he said in the next 3 years. That's pretty ambitious. And for him to do that, he's going to have to open his checkbook, and it seems like he's really willing to do that. So, for a Phillies fan, and as a Phillies fan watching this, it's scary to see the Mets coming because you don't want to see them in your rear view that close or pass you or overtake you in the division. I mean, the last thing I want as a Phillies fan is to see that happen. And, there's a big chance that could happen with this new ownership. So does it preclude them from signing JT? I don't know. Crazier things have happened. Could they get both of them? Would they want both of them? Why would you want both of them? But at the same time, as a Phillies fan, seeing the Mets ready to spend money, your brain just starts talking crazy, and you just wonder who's coming after JT next or who might sign him. But ultimately, I really hope that the Phillies ownership comes through and re-signs JT because, as we've said a couple times during this podcast tonight, is you're not in a win now mode if you don't do that. So you got to sign him, you got to bring him back, and you got to build around that and fill the holes around that. And there's a lot of holes to fill. So Terry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but what were you going to say there?
Well, I was going to say, obviously it would be great to get him back because there's not a lot out there. And my God, if we have to watch Andrew Knapp play catcher for the whole season, I don't know if that's watchable. I meant it to just turn the TV off every time he comes up the bat because I don't think he's any good. He played a little bit better this year, but I don't know what they do if they don't sign him back. So, it's tough. They got a lot of places positions they got to address. You said bad contracts. I'm not really sure at this point. I'm just going to let it play out and see what happens. I hope that they can put something reasonable on the field this year, but I'm not getting my hopes up for the Phils anytime soon.
Do you guys think that if they lose JT and trade Wheeler, that they have any chance of going after Springer? I don't think so. You'd have so much money tied up between him and Harper in the outfield. I don't see how they would start rebuilding the farm system unless you just bring those guys in and tell them, look, at some point, hopefully in the next 5 years, we can bring enough pitching in here to have a relevant team.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of selling points for this team right now. You don't, anybody with two eyes can see that the farm system isn't stacked and that, what's on the big league club I don't think is close to being a contender. I've said it multiple times. There's so many holes to fill that, it's going to take one, we've got a big fish in Harper, but I think it's going to take you another big name free agent or some sort of positional fill or pitching fill to start being attractive for people again. There's got to be you got to make it a destination. I mean, Brandon, you said earlier that it's been 9 years since we've had relevant and meaningful baseball in this town. And if you go back 9-10 years ago, did you ever think that we would go 10 years almost without having relevant, meaningful baseball? I didn't think so. I thought we were on a roll, man. We were never going to let that go, and it slipped away and has disappeared.
I think that's why a lot of people really don't like Ruben Amaro, right? Because of the fact that he just allowed the team that all of us thought were going to be back-to-back winners, and then the Yankees nipped that in the bud. And then after that, the retooling, if you will, just never happened. It's like you put a stranglehold on this team and held on to so many players for way too long, and just never got them back into a position to get back to winning baseball. And this has been the repercussions of it for now almost a decade.
Their only way out of this is going to be, they have to make it an attractive place for somebody to come. Because right now, it's going to be tough to lure any free agents outside of the fact that you have, Harper there. There's not much else. I mean, they have to throw a ton of money on this situation to kind of make it at least where they can be in the mix. I mean, look at the division. Look at the NL East. The NL East is stacked. The Braves are really good. The Mets are going to be better. The Nationals are still pretty good. And the Marlins, they're on the rise right now. The Phillies could be the worst team in the division very easily. So, I mean, you also might have to think about maybe not sign a Real Muto. You might have to put bad product on the field for a year or two more. And Harper's obviously not going to be happy about it, but maybe that's what it's going to take to kind of get a little bit of forward momentum with it. You got to start somewhere. Maybe they can make some pickups with some bullpen guys. Maybe you get a fringe pitcher. Maybe a couple of players that can fill some roles, and then maybe down the road a little bit, maybe try and hit the big fish in free agency.
See, I think if they do that, though, I think that's very anti what they sold Harper on to come here. If you go back to that press conference at the Philly spring training facility down in Florida, and you go back to wanting to win now and a commitment to winning and family. And I mean, how many times did you hear them say this during that press conference? And I think if you don't sign JT and are willing to let him walk and use that money in other places, if it's money well spent and can be used to bring in multiple positional people that are going to have an impact right away, then maybe that makes sense. But that's going to be a real tough sell to Bryce right now. Everybody knows his feelings on Real Muto and bringing him back and sign JT and sign him. I mean, he's been very, very vocal in his want and desire to bring JT back. So if you don't bring JT back, what's that do to Harper's confidence in ownership and in this team and in this organization? I think it really puts a drive. It really is going to drive a wedge in that. Brandon, what do you think?
I think it's going to be tough to see what happens over the next couple of years with this team for sure. I think with Harper, going back to that same press conference, I remember which one that you were talking about and thinking about how much of a different place that I thought this team was in. I kind of thought that that's kind of what they did last year, was like, hey, let's grab Didi. We have JT. We have Bryce. Let's see if maybe on the off chance that we can just score more runs than our pitching gives up and just see what happens. And then that landed you the worst pitching bullpen in the history of baseball. So I don't know if at this point they're doing anything more than just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall when it comes to pitchers. But I'm hoping that now the hire of this new president can bring to the Phillies kind of the same thing a lot of teams in Philadelphia needs, and that's just smart drafting and then just starting to rebuild this team from the ground up in that sense, so that we can actually have some pieces to do something with in the near future. Do I think this team could turn it around in like 2 to 4 years. I think it's possible, but I definitely don't have much hope. So on to a spot where I have way more hope, and that's Terry going 13-3 last week. NFL predictions, baby. We are ready. Terry, are you ready for this week's predictions?
Oh, absolutely. Let's get rolling here for this. Let me get my page up. All right, so we've got we're getting into like the late December time of year with football. So now we're starting to get games on more days, even though we've had Tuesday and Wednesday football. Where we got a Thursday, two Saturday games, full slate on Sunday and Monday night. So first game we got is Thursday night. Chargers heading to Vegas. You guys want to play the game again today, or you just want me to roll with the spreads?
We can play the game again today. I just want to say called the Chargers last week, but go ahead.
I'll say Raiders are a 7-point home favorite.
I will say Raiders by 3.
Raiders 3.5-point home favorite.
Damn. I almost said 3.5, and I'm like, no, the Chargers suck.
For me in this one, I still think the Chargers have a chance to be in every game because of Herbert, and I think their offense is still, formidable. But I think the Raiders know they have to win if they want to stay in the playoff hunt. So I'm taking the Raiders this week.
I think it really for me comes down to a coin flip. I've taken some heat internally in the family for picking the Raiders, as my father-in-law is a huge Chief fan. But I don't think that the Chargers have enough for them. So give me the Raiders this week.
I'll take the Raiders as well. I almost switched it at the last minute just because thinking it is possible that I feel like the Chargers could stay on a hot streak here. They've been still one of my absolute favorite teams to watch this year, even though they've lost as many games as they have. It's been exciting football for the Chargers for sure, but I'm going to take the Raiders in this one.
On a side note, I have implications on the game for my fantasy football playoffs. I had Derek Carr and Waller both gone in this game, so I hope they really produce. That'd be great, but we'll see. So next games we got Saturday, 2 games Saturday this week. First one is Buffalo heads to Denver. What do you guys think on this one?
Brandon, you want to go first?
Buffalo by 6.
You were reading my mind. I'll go Buffalo 6.5.
Buffalo 6.5 favorite.
Good job, bud.
Right on the nose, both of you. This one's a no-brainer. Definitely taking the Bills. I know the Broncos had a surprise win this past week. But the Bills, they made a statement on Sunday. Beating the Steelers didn't play very well, but the Bills are on a hot streak. They're, one Hail Mary play away from winning 7 straight. They're a super hot team right now. If we were doing power rankings, they'd definitely be in the top 5. So I think they're a team to watch out for.
We did an MVP ranking early in the season, and he was my honorable mention pick, and I got laughed at. But I digress.
I wasn't laughing. I thought he was in the MVP talk at that point. I still think he might be.
I mean, it would be a long shot, I think, for him at this point, but for just the absolute best season that he's had for himself at this point, I definitely like seeing former Eagles with their coach do some things. But I don't know, man. I don't ultimately see huge things for the Bills, but I definitely think they're going to take it this week.
Same. I'll take the Bills.
All right, so we got late game on Saturday. Panthers head to Green Bay, play the Packers. I think this number, you guys should be thinking high on this one.
Man,
I'm kind of not. I'm kind of thinking Packers by like 3 because I think the Panthers, they came to play in the last couple of weeks. They've been getting hot. I feel like the Packers have that, like they love to play down to their competition. So I don't have a lot of faith that the Packers might not squeak this one out. I'm still going to pick Green Bay for my pick, but I think I'm going to take Packers by 3 on the spread here.
I think you're more in the line of like a 10-point favorite there.
Packers are 8.5 favorites.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a much closer game, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Packers run away with it too. But the Panthers have been playing pretty good the last couple of weeks. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they're definitely they're an underrated team. I think what Matt Rule's done, considering the fact that their best player pretty much hasn't played for the majority of this season, and he really was starting with a completely revamped defense. He's got those guys bought in because they're definitely in every game. I mean, they haven't won a lot of games for sure, but that's a team to keep an eye on going forward. I mean, I don't think they're going to make any. They're obviously not doing anything this year, and probably next year. They're still a few players away, but I like what the Panthers have done. But in this game, there's no way I'm picking them. I'm going Packers all the way. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are likely going to have a field day.
I agree, Packers.
All right, so on to our Sunday slate. First game of Sunday, we have Buccaneers heading to Atlanta. What do you guys think on that?
I think the Bucs are going to be obviously a favored team here. We'll go 6.5. I like that number there.
I'll go 8.
We got Bucs are 5.5 point favorites.
And you never know what Falcons are going to show up, right, Ralph?
Oh, trust me, I know.
It's always so hard to say. I mean, they had that 1 week, a couple weeks back. They played some pretty good football. So I mean, anything could happen, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're a very mysterious team. I mean, obviously, early in the season, before the firing of Quinn, they were atrocious. So rightfully so. But since the new coach is in there, they've been playing better, but they're not consistent week to week. But I think the Buccaneers have to win this game to keep pace in the playoff run. So this is a no-brainer. I'm going Bucs.
Yeah, there's no mystery with this game. Maybe with the Falcons season, but not with this game. I'm going Bucs.
Yeah, like you said, it's a must-win for the Bucs, so I'm hitting the Bucs on this one.
Next one, we got Jacksonville heading to Baltimore. I don't think anybody's taking the Jags on this one. You guys might want to try a line.
I think you're going to have a big line here. Let's say I'm probably shooting for the stars here, but I think it's going to be a big spread, 13.
I'm going to go more like the 6.5.
13.5.
Wow. That's crazy to me. I definitely think that's possible, but the same thing. We're here at the end of the season. Crazy things happen. The Jags randomly decide to play football some weeks, and the Ravens decide not to. I mean, that just seems like, to me, I'd want to hedge my bets on that one, but whew.
I mean, I would say I have to like. I mean, I'm obviously taking the Ravens in our pick'em here, but as far as betting is concerned, the Jags plus 13.5. I think that's a pretty solid play. They've been in every game. I mean, and I don't know what the situation is with their running back, Robinson. The guy's like money for 100 yards every single game. And then considering he's an undrafted free agent rookie, that's incredible. So, I mean, I think the 13.5. I think you're right, Brandon. I think the game's going to be a little bit closer than this number is, but I still think the Ravens, they have to win. So I think they get it done.
I think it's a bummer that Robinson does so well, only because there's a guy from our high school that plays for the Jags, and maybe he'd get a little bit more playing time. But I think he was hurt this year. Do you guys know? Was it Raquel Armstrong or Armstead?
Armstead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was placed on the COVID list at like the very beginning of the season, like right after they traded Fournette away. He was in line to be their starter, and then he went on the COVID list, and he has never been heard from since. I'm assuming he's active, but he's probably like the backup or the third option.
Yeah,
which kind of stinks. I mean, he would have had a good opportunity, but
yeah, it's always fun
COVID.
when you get to see guys that actually go to the same high school as you went to. Obviously, a lot longer ago for me, but actually go out there and do big things. I mean, we got Mike Trout, which is arguably one of the best players in baseball, which I don't think anybody saw ahead of time. We all wanted to see huge things for him, but then I think that was all above expectation. I think we had a guy that played for the Gators before, and we've had the gentleman that played for the Jags. I don't know of too many others. I don't think there were any others, were there?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, not sure.
I don't think the Jags are going to pull this game out, but I would not be surprised to see it close. That's for sure.
Same, Ravens.
Ravens for me as well, if that wasn't clear.
Next one, we got Seahawks at the football team.
Ooh, this one's
surprising line on this one.
They don't know if Alex Smith's going to start, so I think that's going to be a big one there. He is, as far as I know, limited in practice, and it's really up in the air. They're going to kind of see how it goes throughout the week, so Alex Smith is not guaranteed to start.
What do you think? I think the Seahawks are going to be the favorite going into this, but that Washington defense they come to play, boy, and they're tough. It's home for Washington. Not that really matters in the era that we live in, but I'm going to guess that Seattle's a 5.5 point favorite.
6.
Ooh, Ralph, on the money, 5.5 Seahawks.
I swear I have not looked at lines.
He's on the money with that one. If Alex Smith doesn't play, I don't think Washington has a chance. Even as good as their defense is, their defense definitely is opening some eyes. Some of all those first round picks, and they can really play some solid tough defense. The NFC is going to have a lot of problems playing against that team. They're going to hold people down, low scoring for quite a while. I still think the Seahawks are going to have, they're going to have that passing attack. They're going to be able to get downfield. I'm taking the Seahawks on this one. I think they win it.
So last week I played Kreskin, and I had said that Patrick Mahomes was going to throw an interception in the first half of the game, and they were still going to win that game. And that happened, by the way. He threw 2. But I think this is going to be, I'm going to pick the Seahawks, but this is a game I'm going to watch and see if Chris Carson can make it through the game. If they're not careful, I think they might lose him in this one. So if they can roll DK and they can roll Lockett in this game, that's what I would try to do, is attack Washington's secondary, and I would hesitate from trying to run the ball too much in this game because they're going to need to have those guys healthy down the line. But I'm picking Seahawks.
For the interest of betting and the interest of this pick'em, I'm going to take Washington. Their defense right now is playing at just such a high level, and that Chase Young, I mean, that dude is going to be scary for the NFC East for a long time. We're going to have our hands full with that dude for a long time to come. Seahawks, obviously, not going to surprise me if they win, but something tells me to pick Washington in this spot. So give me the football team.
I would agree that we would have a lot to worry about with Chase Young, but I do not think that Washington will likely be able to keep him after his contract is up, because their history of signing big name stars is pretty crap. So we'll be interested to see what happens. We might only have to deal with him for a couple of years.
Well, did you see what Mike Tomlin said to him on the sideline during the game?
No.
He was like, I don't ever get guys like you on my team, because my teams are never picking that high in the order. He's like, we don't get guys like you. I got to come buy you, or we got to come, give you the money to come here, or something like that. It was a pretty funny exchange.
I don't ever want to suck that bad that I get to draft you.
Yeah.
All right. So next on tap, we got the Texans heading to Indianapolis.
Whew. I mean, the record alone speaks for itself. Colts being a home team, that should automatically factor for something. Colts are a very up and down, hot and cold team. Texans are pretty much the same, even though the record says that they're not playing very well. So this one's a little bit tougher for me. I'll take the Colts plus, or the Colts. Give me them as I'm going to say 8.5 point favorite. It's probably high.
Man, I was thinking 8 right before you said that, so I'll say 6.
You should have met in the middle, 7.5.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, this one, I mean, I think this is the Texans just got shellacked by the Bears, and Mitch Trubisky threw 3 touchdowns on them.
Mitch Trubisky looked like a Pro Bowler in that game. People actually made memes and put them online trying to say, oh, this is why we didn't draft Deshaun. You need to go get a CAT scan quickly if that's how your feelings are.
The Texans obviously are shorthanded. Their defense, even though the defense has played well at times this season, their defense stinks. And what's Watson working with right now? I mean, his top receiver is out because he went on the juice, and then you got Brandon Cooks, who, I mean, yeah, he's good for a couple of big catches every game, but then he disappears. So I mean, it's tough for him right now
if he doesn't get drived.
Yeah, he's one concussion away from being Bobby Boucher.
That's true. I forgot about that. How many teams has he been on in his career? He's got to have been on like 4 different teams, right?
I'm still laughing about the water boy thing. Mama always said I catch the ball good.
But on this one, this is another no-brainer. Colts all the way.
Same.
Yeah, same here. I'm taking the Colts.
Next up, the lowly Lions travel to Tennessee and get to face King Henry and the onslaught that's about to happen to them.
Brandon, what do you think?
Do you guys still not feel like Derrick Henry would be your number 1 pick in fantasy? Because I feel like I would have a really hard time passing up on that pick if I had the number 1 overall pick.
No, he wouldn't be my number 1.
I would say McCaffrey is number 1 just because of the amount of receptions he gets. But
and
Derrick Henry is there too. Yeah, but I mean,
Kamara,
Henry's getting too. 25 carries.
Yeah, sometimes more. And that's the thing I love about that guy. I mean, that's one of my favorite types of football to watch, is that for sure. So, say Tennessee by 8.
My gut inclination was 8.5.
It's 10.5.
Wow. They have even less faith in them than we do.
Yeah, I mean this one should get out of hand. I think the Titans will just continue to run the ball on them all game. I don't even know if Tannehill has to even really play. I think he could just basically hand it off to Derrick Henry, 30 times, and they probably will still win by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm taking the Titans. Same here, Titans.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, next we got the it's a little battle in the AFC East. Patriots head to Miami.
I can't believe. Wait, can I say real quick? I want to interject. Anybody taking the Pats? I can't believe I'm going to say this. Anybody taking the Patriots in this game?
I'm not.
I'm not.
Wow, I'm not either. Dude, we're a year removed from Brady being with the Patriots, and we're already, before the end of the season, picking against the Patriots against the Dolphins. Come on now. That's crazy.
But I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Don't get me wrong. Give me more of it. But, man, I did not think these words would escape my lips at any point in time.
It would have been more fun if Brady was still playing for them, but, yeah. I mean, it's definitely good. It's nice to see the Patriots have their struggles. That they've won for a long time. It's tough to see what the other side has to deal with for once. But the Patriots are a weird team, though. I mean, like they come out, and you think that the Chargers would have given them some kind of trouble, and they win 45-0.
Yeah, 45.
And then last week they go and play the Rams, and they just get absolutely handled by them. So it's week to week with them. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pats keep it close, but there's no way.
Wasn't that the rematch game too?
Yeah,
the Super Bowl rematch game.
Yep. What's the line on this game? I'm going to guess it's probably pretty low. I'm going to go probably. I'm going to say it's like 3.5 for the Dolphins.
I was going to say 3 for the Dolphins.
Right now it's 2 for the Dolphins.
Wow. And they're home, you said? Dolphins?
Dolphins are at home, yes.
So they really, not much confidence in that one. You know, Tua hasn't looked as good since he came back from getting benched. I feel like not as sharp as I really had expected. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that there's a little struggling going on there?
There's bound to be.
Yeah, he's going to have his struggles. I think especially if Belichick is going to dial up some exotic schemes and stuff to throw at him, he's probably not ready for yet. So I see Tua definitely struggling in this, but the Dolphins defense to me is just too much for the Patriots to do anything. So I feel like the Dolphins by default will get some kind of points on offense. They do have a couple of threats, out of wide receiver and tight ends, and see what Tua can do. But they always have Fitzmagic in their back pocket if they need a little boost.
No, I really think that you could say pretty easily the Dolphins have more weapons on offense than the Patriots. Like, I don't even know if that's even a contest. But I think that a lot of it's going to come down to how Cam plays. Cam has been such a Jekyll and Hyde version of himself. Some weeks he comes out and he looks pretty good. Other weeks he looks pretty bad. You watch him in the game and he'll make a throw that is like eye-popping. You're like, damn, that was a nice throw. And then it just completely, like, you don't even know where his head is at on the next play. And we had talked about in one of the other podcasts about, we don't know if maybe it was his struggles with the big C that caused for him to maybe have some of those problems. I know Lamar Jackson, who had it as well, talked about he was laid up for like 13 days, like sleeping the vast majority of the time. So I know it affects different people differently, but I don't know. I don't see Cam lasting in this. I don't see him staying with New England. I'm surprised he has made it this long. I thought they were going to try to see what they could get for him, but maybe there was no market at all.
Yeah, I think the Cam Newton experiment in New England is over. There's only a couple games left. That's going to be that.
But Cam made it through healthy. I'll give him that.
Yeah, and they're getting every dollar's worth out of him running the ball too. They're saying, what the hell, just keep running them. Why not? But it's not going to help him going forward. But he probably at this point, I don't know. He probably ends up as a backup next year.
Do you guys think that Tua throws 2 interceptions or more in the game? Because I'm thinking it's going to be a minimum of 2.
I would say 2 sounds like a good number. So we would have to say over under 2.5.
We'll have to see how it goes for sure, but I'm excited to. I think that's going to be one of the games I'm going to be pretty glued to over the weekend for sure.
Yeah, finally get a chance to see the Patriots fall, to see the dynasty fall at the hands of the Dolphins, who've been laughing stock for how long?
I don't remember who it was, but somebody on ESPN this week said Bill Belichick was coach of the year this year. I was like, you must be out of your mind. but because it's partially his fault. This team has so little talent. So you can't really I don't think you can give him props for doing okay with the crap that he gave himself.
I think they're probably looking at it as far as because there's so many COVID opt-outs on the Patriots, but is that, yes, partially it's obviously the COVID situation is very serious, but it also is kind of a little bit of an indictment on him, and guys just don't like him. So that's not really him being a great coach if all these guys are opting out because they just don't want to have to deal with you for a year.
I think some of that luster might kind of wear off after this for sure. It'll be interesting to see if he sticks with New England or not, but I don't want to digress too hard.
So the next one we got here, 49ers at the Cowboys.
Cowboys burned me last week, man. Andy Dalton going back to Cincy and getting the win. I thought the Bengals were going to rough them up, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, man, this one's tough. I think this one's probably going to be the closest game of the week, spread wise. I'm going to say Cowboys are maybe a 1 to 1.5 point favorite. I'll go 1 point favorite.
We'll go 2.
Actually, the 49ers are a 3.5 point road favorite.
Really?
Surprising. This is a tough game. The 49ers are just a patchwork team at this point. I think Mostert's hurt also, so they're going to have, their contingency of third string running backs put together for this game. Deebo Samuel's out. This one's a tough call for me. I, however, am still going to say that the 49ers have just enough talent that they get it done. I'm taking the 49ers to win this one.
I agree. And it's not because of my hatred for the Cowboys. It's more because I don't, I'm a realist too, and I just don't see that team playing well coming off the win last week. I think San Fran is poised to. I don't think it's going to be as tight as a 1 or even 4 point game. I think San Fran's going to win by at least a touchdown.
I'm going to do the opposite of what I did last week, and I'll be the only one to take Dallas this week. I just think there's certainly a chance that they have more to play for. So we'll kind of see what happens there because I know the NFC East is still pretty up in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know. Something tells me I'm still liking Dallas in this one. These two teams, I think, have burnt me the most this entire year because it's so hard to get a read on them from week to week as to whether or not I feel like they're going to do something. And Shanahan, in and of himself, I feel like is his own worst enemy with play calling. But yeah.
Well, when your quarterback's Nick Mullins, I mean, you're not really shooting, a fully loaded gun with that.
Yeah, but when you're saying hey, my quarterback's Nick Mullins, I think what my strategy is going to be is we're going to drop back 30 times. Is not really, I think, the best strategy. But yeah, it's we'll have to see. I didn't think that. Didn't they win last week, the Niners?
No, they lost
to the Bills. Washington, that's right. So yeah, they're on a couple week skid. So I'm still going to take Dallas.
Next one, we got Bears at the Vikings.
I'll defer, Brandon.
Oh. Can I? Is such a thing as a tie?
Well, there is. Ask McNabb, he'll tell you.
Yeah, right. McNabulous. Say Vikings by 3.
I was thinking Vikings by. I like 5.5 here.
Got Vikings 3.5 point favorites.
Nice.
This one's a I don't really know situation. I mean, the Bears were a surprise last week with Trubisky coming out playing well. I don't think he does it 2 weeks in a row. They definitely still have a solid run game. Minnesota is another one of these teams you don't know what you're getting week to week. they definitely have the pieces. I mean, they have it in the passing game. They have Dalvin Cook's the stud, but their defense stinks too. So I think this is going to be pretty close. I'm gonna take the Vikings in this one. I think they're playing at home. You know, they've got a little bit more on offense to give the Bears some problems, and I think their defense might just have enough to shut down Montgomery and Trubisky. I'll take the Vikes.
I don't trust either team. I just think that the Vikings have more offensive weaponry than do the Chicago Bears. The Bears, they're an enigma. I think, we just talked about them being one of the frustrating teams this year, along with, San Fran and Dallas. And for me, Detroit and Carolina have really been frustrating to pick this year because, from week to week, you just get such a different level of competition and a level of play from these teams, and there's no real consistency from them, and a lot of it has to do with injuries and whatnot, but you can only take that so far. So getting back to the Bears and the Vikings as a pick, I just think that Minnesota's weaponry is just going to be too much for Chicago here, so I'll take the Vikings at home.
I'm going to take the Vikings as well. Just a quick aside, I was actually wrong. So guess how many times Nick Mullins attempted a pass in last week's game?
38.
20.
45 times. You really think you're going to win a football game in the NFL with Nick Mullins throwing 45 passes? Get out of here. That is never going to happen. Anyway, yeah, Vikings.
He's watching some of Doug Peterson's film. It's his play calling style. Let's just throw it a million times.
For a second, I was like, I feel like I might just be like over dramatic in my saying 30 something times. But no, last week was 45. The week before that was 39. Like, you are not winning games with him dropping back 40 times. Why does Shanahan not run the ball? Is he that scared to live in his dad's shadow that he just won't go to that aspect of the game? Like, they're good at it. You could have janitors from the 49ers back there, and I'm pretty sure he could still draw up some run plays, where they could get some yardage, and they don't do it. I don't get it. My rant is over.
He needs Coach Klein's green book, dude. Get some real plays in there.
You got a Niners shirt on underneath that Eagles green?
Dude, I'm just telling you, it's this coaches not running the ball when they should run the ball. Oh, it's giving me hives, man. I don't know what the problem is. I think I need some ointment or something.
All right, so, speaking of coaches that don't typically run the ball, we got the Eagles traveling to Arizona.
So yeah, Mitchie again.
What do you guys got?
Well, Hurts gets the start again. Cardinals at home. Talk about disappointing teams. There was a little stretch there where I thought Arizona could give anybody in the NFC West a run for their money and could very well take the number one spot in that division. But they've lost a couple of tough games. They're 7-6. I still think they're formidable. I still think that they're a good team. I still think that ultimately they win this game. I don't trust the Eagles. I don't trust Hurts yet. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, as an Eagles fan. I will start with my pick and say the Cardinals will win, and I'm going to say that they are home 6.5-point favorites.
I'll take 6 since he said 6. I'm also going to take the Cardinals. Am I? I don't know. You know what? I'm going to take the Eagles to win. I'm gonna steal Terry's thunder from last week, and feeling like, because my big thing is, if I look at what the Cardinals have been doing the last couple of weeks, they haven't been super successful against the run game, and I still feel like the Eagles are going to be pretty run heavy over the next couple of weeks here with Jalen. So I think I'm going to be leaning for the Birds on this one.
So the spread is the Cards are 6.5-point favorites, and so I'll say this: if the Eagles secondary wasn't completely decimated, I would have taken the Eagles in this game, because I don't. Like Ralph said, the Cards, they looked really good early on, and they've really fizzled, and they just don't look really good. I mean, they did bounce back a little bit last week against the Giants, but I'm going to have to take the Cards just because I don't think the Eagles will have anybody that can cover DeAndre Hopkins or Christian Kirk downfield. I think they're gonna throw the ball all over us. No, there's no way we're gonna be able to stop them.
So this is my Eagles fan fantasy. My Eagles fan fantasy is that Darius Slay has a comeback game after calling himself out on Twitter for basically playing as poorly as he's ever has in his career over the last few games. So I'm hoping, beyond hope, that hopefully, if nothing else, maybe he can pull his game together and can keep D-Hop under 100, but I am not super hopeful.
I'm checking right now. I don't know if he's going to play.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
looking at the injury report here.
I haven't seen one way or the other.
Blake, questionable concussion.
If it's concussion.
And then he also had a knee. He also had like a knee or an ankle thing going on too, so he's going to be hobbled. McLeod's out for the season. He tore his ACL, so no Rodney, and Avonte Maddox is out. They're in shambles.
Because if by some miracle they can keep the Arizona offense off of the field and they can keep running the ball, then maybe, just maybe, they can squeak it out like they did last week. And I already said Eagles, so I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to be a little bitch.
I was giving you the opening if you wanted to with all these injuries. But all right,
I'm not going to be a bitch about it.
I like the commitment to the pick. All right, so let's see. We got next one, Jets at the Rams. I mean, I'm pretty sure we don't even have to go into this one, but Rams. What do you guys think the spread's on this one?
I'll say I'll equal the biggest one so far at 13.5.
I'll take 10.
16.5 for the Rams.
Wow.
That is no respect for the Jets.
At all. Good Lord. Wow.
16.5.
Oh.
Would you throw something on the Jets on that game, just in the off chance that they might pull something out? I don't even think I would want to throw away my money like that.
No. Let's just flush my money down the toilet instead.
Basically.
Yeah, that's a true line. I mean, I think the Jets got to go across the country, and you see the way the Rams just took apart the Patriots, that are a much better team. This one could be like they could win by like 30. Maybe take the Rams and bump that line up to like 24 and see how much you can get out of that one. But yeah, the Jets are they're looking closer and closer to going 0-16. And Trevor Lawrence.
Who do they have left on their schedule? Do we know?
So the Jets have remaining the Rams, the Browns, and the Patriots.
Maybe the Patriots. Maybe.
I don't see it happening. They're going 0-16.
I think there's a good chance. I'm not going to say Patriots. I'm going to say Browns. I'm going to say if it happens versus the Browns.
The Browns would do that.
Yeah.
They would stub their toe against the Jets. But I don't like. So at this point, I mean, like, first of all, why hasn't Gase been fired? And second of all, they have to be saying, like, we really want the top pick.
Maybe that's their way of trying to say, like, hey, Trevor, if you don't go back to college, then we'll allow you to pick, have some say in who your next head coach is going to be. We clearly can't do good at picking this guy. Maybe you can.
He's also like, yeah, just bring Dabo right up. Let's go.
Oh, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I
think Dabo and Lincoln Riley will probably be hot off-season coaching picks, because we know Saban ain't going anywhere. He ain't doing that.
I think Dabo, personality-wise, is definitely a good coach. I love watching his interviews, and I feel like, as if I was a football guy playing for him, that I would enjoy that. But I don't know, man. I don't know if that'll translate. I think Lincoln Riley is definitely, with the whole quarterback whisperer thing, has a chance. I don't know if head coach in the NFL is ultimately going to be, maybe offensive coordinator would be more of a spot for him in the long run, but I definitely agree that those are probably two of the big names. I still hope we see Eric Bieniemy in the offseason get a head coaching job.
Yeah, I think he's number one taken off the list. I mean, I don't know. Well, I mean, the Jets are certainly going to have an opening. The Jags are probably going to have an opening. The Bears, I think Nagy gets fired.
I think Bieniemy makes sense in Texas or in Houston.
That's true.
I think it makes sense. Deshaun Watson, he's a very Patrick Mahomes-esque quarterback. I'm not going to compare him to Mahomes, but I think he has a lot of the same attributes that Mahomes has. And we obviously know that Bieniemy's got a good resume there with Mahomes and working with a young quarterback like that and developing that offense. I think Bieniemy would probably at this point prefer to stay in the AFC, and I think the Texans make a heck of a lot of sense for him.
Man, it's crazy how far the NFC has come in the last so many years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's an ugly situation. the word, like, we went from being like probably the toughest division year in and year out. I mean, even there was always a team that was, had a down year or, whatever. Sometimes that was because of injuries, but it was usually a super competitive division. Usually if you got 9 or 10 wins, that was enough. This is a disgrace this year, and it's just getting worse. I mean, but at least a team like Washington, the Giants, they're still looking like they have a little something there. I mean, Giants defense looks good. Washington defense looks good, but the Eagles and the Cowboys, two teams that were probably 1 and 1A to win the division, both in the toilet this year, and they look like a mess all over the place. I don't know. But you'd mentioned Mahomes, so this looks like it's going to be the game of the week. We have Kansas City heading to New Orleans. This is Super Bowl preview.
It very well could be. Is Breeze coming back this week?
He can. I think he's eligible to come back, but they haven't said whether or not they're going to actually have him come back.
I don't. So I don't think the spread's going to be a big one. But I think Kansas City is going to be favored in this one, probably by. Big for Kansas City. I'll take Kansas City as a 7.5 point favorite without Breeze. I don't think Taysom Hill gives the Saints a whole lot of firepower, especially coming off the loss to the Eagles last week. So I'm going to guess 7.5.
My first inclination is to say KC by 10.
Well, Vegas thinks it's going to be a hell of a lot closer than that. The Chiefs are a 2.5 point favorite.
Wow.
I don't know, man. I feel like the Chiefs are going to put more on them than that. What do you guys think? Do you think the Saints defense is going to rebound after last week?
I don't think it's going to be competitive.
I don't either.
I don't know. I think I would say this, the Chiefs they're toying with getting, with losing a game. I mean, they've been playing a lot of close games lately. The Saints have to bounce back after the loss to the Eagles because they just got knocked off their perch of top spot in the NFC. And, whether there's no fans there or not, home field advantage is still a big deal when you don't have to travel. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I think the Saints will be a little surprising, but As every week, I'm not gonna go against the Chiefs. They just have too much. I mean, the Eagles just beat the Saints too. I mean, the Eagles just showed them, a way you can beat the Saints. The little RPOs, and
they could do it even better than the Eagles did it.
I mean, Taysom Hill is still pretty decent. So
I was being nice. They literally have all of the weapons that could run that offense 900 times better than the Eagles could run it. There you go. Is that better?
Yes, and their play calling and play selection and rhythm of calling plays during the game is light years ahead of Dougie P. So, man, the Chiefs just it's everything that you want your team to be from an offensive side of the coin. I mean, they just do some really fun things. I mean, all that motion, all the sweeps, all the misdirection, and when you've got Mahomes back there, I mean, it's I go back to talking about my father-in-law being a big Chief fan, and I told him the other night, I said it's just not fair. I mean, Mahomes just isn't fair to the rest of the league. Nobody's playing at his level. I mean, when you can lose 30 yards on a play where Mahomes got dropped at like the 5-yard line against the Dolphins, and then you could throw 3 picks, and you can have a pretty terrible game in a Patrick Mahomes sense of the word, and still come back and win that game the way they won it. And how they won it. I mean, they were down 10 points at one point, and then at one point I believe they were up by a couple of scores. So you just, as a Chiefs fan, you've got to feel like you're never out of it. You're always in it, no matter what the score is, and as long as you've got 15 under center, I think you've got a chance to win. So this team's scary good.
I don't even feel silly for saying this. The Chiefs could put up 50 points like nothing. Like, they literally, I've never seen a team go down as much as they did last year and then keep continually coming back and winning games. Like, it was just amazing. So for me right now, they're the team to beat. So I'm not going to pick against them for those reasons.
Yeah, I agree with everything. They've got the best quarterback in the league. They got the best tight end in the league. They got the fastest receiver in the league. They've got, they got studs all over the place, even on defense. I mean, they got the Honey Badger back there now, making plays on defense for them. They're a tough out. I mean, we'll make more picks down the line, but I mean, I don't see anyone in the AFC that's going to be able to stop them.
And Le'Veon Bell's like an afterthought now.
Yeah,
nobody even thinks about him.
Yep. And come playoff times, they will, because if they don't account for him, that's going to be problems for sure.
Yep.
So is that the last one?
2 more.
No, we got 2 more. We got the Sunday night game. We got the Browns heading to New York, playing the Giants.
Browns favored by, I'm gonna guess 3.5. No, I almost went 3.5. I'll go, 8.5.
Browns by 6.
Browns 4.5. Should have stayed with the first instinct there, Ralph.
Yeah, but I just, I don't know. The Giants are another team you just don't trust.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hesitate at all with this one. I think the Browns, the way that they played the way they played last night, and the fact that they need to bounce back. I know the Giants are playing better, but that rushing attack and the fact that Baker's playing well, the Browns defense is not great, but I think they have enough to slow the Giants down enough where they win this easily. So I'm going Browns.
Browns for me as well.
Yeah, Browns, and I, as much as I talk about my my father-in-law being a Chiefs fan, my mother-in-law is a Giants fan, so you can imagine that leads to a couple interesting matchups a year, and when times are good for either one of us, leads to some interesting moments together. But I took a little heat from her last week for not picking the Giants in our pick'em poll, and I'll probably take the same amount of heat from her again. But like I said, I mean, they're a frustrating team from a pick'em standpoint because, again, like we said about other teams, 1 week you get, a little shade of greatness and what could be, and then the next week they lay an egg. So I just don't trust them right now, and that's why I would be taking the Browns.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think what the Giants could be if they had Saquon right now. They could be a little bit of a problem, but those injuries derail a whole season. But at least they're playing better.
I hope he can get healthy, and I hope he can come back because I really think Saquon is something special, and it's just not been able to put it together.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. That guy's got like tree trunk legs, like jumping over people like it's nothing, and then just rocketing downfield, taking it to the house. He's awesome. It's almost like at this point with some of these star players that it's almost like it's coming with the injury. So maybe it's better to get it out of the way early. But you hate to see it. I mean, this year's crazy. You had Saquon, McCaffrey, two of the best players in the league out. What, by the second week, third week, first week? I don't know. I mean, they were seemed like they were going right off the bat. So it stinks, but he's a stud. He'll come back. He'll be good. All right, last one we got Monday night game. This one should be an easy one. Steelers going to Cincinnati. They need to bounce back. The line says they're going to.
I'll say Pittsburgh by 10, and that's my pick. Pittsburgh
by 12, and that's my pick.
Pittsburgh by 12.5, and that's my pick too.
Nice, Brandon.
Finishing up strong.
Yeah.
Also want to let you guys know, since we're wrapping up the football picks here, Sixers won their first preseason game. Standout player of the game, Shake Milton. He had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 19 points. We don't need no James Harden up in here. We got Joel Embiid had 18 points. Tobias Harris had 16 points. And Danny Green just had 3. Seth Curry had 7. And Dwight Howard had 5 rebounds, 1 assist, and 5 points. So, nice little win for the Sixers, 108-99 over the Celtics. First game of the preseason. I'm excited to see basketball back on the horizon as well as many other sports. I want to thank you guys for showing up here tonight. We went a little long, so I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. I want to also make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. If we can get YouTube to show our show to about 200 to 300 people every week, it's usually a big deal. So every time you hit like, every time you comment, that really helps us out to kind of force the YouTube algorithms, if you will, to show our show to more people. So if you want to help us out, that really is a huge deal. I want to thank again everybody for tuning in. I hope everybody has a very safe, very healthy, and happy weekend, and we'll be back again next week. Take it easy, folks.
It's my turn! You told me it was my turn.
You can talk all that you want to, yell and scream, you lost.
It is my turn.
You lost the game. Take as long as you want, you still lost.